Ready. All right, we'll start off with a quick recap of the weekend. As I mentioned, our guys showed great mental toughness in the way that they were accountable for, their play, right, and doing their job. And certainly a game where, not an SEC opponent, but really liked the way that they prepared and played the game the right way. For 4 quarters, and in less than ideal conditions, not a full crowd, coming off of an incredible environment 2 weeks prior at Alabama. All those things usually equal into a change in the way you think. But their consistent application of our process has allowed them to, play each game with a faceless opponent and go out and do their job the right way, and was really proud of them. So I wanted to publicly say that again. Now moving forward, we take on an SEC opponent, which is well known to all LSU fans in Texas A&M, and certainly when we talk about a talented football team, this is arguably as talented as a football team as we'll see all year. They're young in some areas, but it doesn't take away from the talent that they have on the field. Jimbo obviously is an outstanding football coach. I've gone against him when he was at Florida State. Certainly this is their game, right? I mean, last one that they play this year against LSU, their rival, they'll play their absolute best against us, and we'll have to meet and exceed, our play. Certainly outstanding players on both sides of the ball. Devin Achane, the running back, is outstanding. The receiver, one of the best in the country. Again, Stewart is a guy that you have to know where he is at all times. Defensively, young and talented, outstanding defensive line, run to the football. Again, great atmosphere. And one that our football team is certainly looking forward to, and has, again, from our perspective, handled themselves all year in the right way, and will prepare accordingly for an outstanding, talented football team. They don't have the wins that they wanted, but all they need is one, and that's to beat LSU. So we'll have to prepare very well. And perform well on Saturday against this football team. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Coach, just on the offensive line, how are y'all working Garrett Dellinger back in, and just, what's the update on the offensive line going into this game?
Yeah, so Dellinger got some playing time. I thought he contributed nicely to the rotation, playing at the guard position. As you know, we started Martinez at the center position. I thought he did a nice job. Again, I think, Dellinger's best position is and more comfortable at the guard position than he is at the center position, so we'll continue to work him in.
Hey, Brian, you mentioned coaching against Jimbo. Did it 4 times when you were at Notre Dame. What are the hallmark of Jimbo teams, and what's it like coaching against, preparing against him?
Always talented. He's obviously a great recruiter, and he's talented. He's had talented football teams every year that I've gone against him. Again, the calling card has always been outstanding offenses, the ability to play aggressive defense, and just good football teams. They've always been great games, and look forward to another great matchup again.
Brian, y'all have the chance to win 10 games in regular season. It would be the second time that's done here since 2012. Obviously, you've done that a few times already. Do you find that there's anything significant for a program just to be able to reach that benchmark?
No, I don't think they give you any ticket-take parades or anything that's but 10 wins, is certainly a benchmark, I think, and when people look back on seasons, I think it does a lot in terms of solidify your postseason opportunities. I think it puts you in a different category. But I don't think you go into the season going, hey, we got to get to 10. I think you go into the season thinking about, winning the SEC West. This is an important football game because we want to continue to get better as a football team as we go into the SEC West championship game. So it's important for us because each week for us is we're building something within our program. As I mentioned, the UAB game may not have been as important to other people outside the walls, but inside the walls, that was a huge game for us in terms of, doing our job, the way the job needs to be done, when it needed to be done, and that was really important for us. That was a big hurdle for us. And this is another one. It's going on the road against a really talented team that has nothing to lose, and you have to play well because they will play up to you. So I think we just think more terms of challenges within the program than particular wins at this point.
Coach Kelly, to your left over here. Just what does the holiday week present as far as challenges to get your team prepared on the road? Just kind of take us through your schedule and how it works for you.
Well, I think the same, challenges on the road, are there for you. Thursday we handle a little bit different. We'll practice in the morning, but we'll have Thanksgiving dinner together. We'll bring the coaches' families in. The players will be with us, and share Thanksgiving together. We'll release all of the non-travel players after practice in the morning so they can be with their families. And then really from there it just becomes a normal Friday for us where we'll have meetings at noon and then, board the plane around 3, 4 o'clock and get into College Station around 6 o'clock. So then it just becomes business as usual. Yes, it's just the Thursday really that alters just a little bit.
Hey, Coach, when you were named the head coach at that podium, I think you were asked about discipline, and you said it was going to be on the players. The team was going to need to discipline themselves. What players or what leaders have you seen that have emerged in that regard and taken ownership of the team?
Well, as you know, we break our team into SWAT leaders, and we rotate that throughout the entire football team. I've never been really a believer that there's just 3 or 4 captains and they just, that's it. I like roving leaders. I like that to come from all forms, from freshmen, sophomores, juniors. For example, some of our great leaders have been, Mekhi Wingo, who's a transfer from Missouri, who's just a sophomore. But we've gotten great leadership from, veteran seniors as well, and Mike Jones, who's, not even in a starting position right now, but means a lot to our football team. So I think it's important that everybody serves some kind of leadership role to get true accountability across the board. And so that's kind of been, for me, how you build that accountability and discipline, that personal discipline, when you share it throughout the entire football program and in each class as well.
Coach, now that you've gone through this league for just about a year, you got one more regular season game, anything that maybe was a preconceived notion of yours that has kind of been erased? Just your thoughts on going through this thing the first time.
No, I think it's lived up to what I had thought. I mean, it's difficult. Each and every week is a challenge. And you look at the Arkansas game, we played, a team that you saw what they did this past weekend to Ole Miss. I mean, you have to play well. And, a lot of people looked at our 13-10 game and kind of, said, what's wrong with them? There's nothing wrong with our team. It's each and every week the challenges that you get in this conference. You better be ready to play. There's no week off, and that's exhausting. That's tiring. That's why I was so proud of the performance of our football team this past weekend against a dangerous UAB team that can run the football as an outstanding back. That requires effort. That requires grit and toughness to stop a run team like that. So, no, I don't know that anything has really surprised me as much as I think, being in this business as long as I have, I think I got to know the SEC and how difficult it is from week to week, and it's lived up to that.
Hey, Coach. Just wondering if we could get an update on Josh Williams and if you think he'll be back this week. And then Noah Cain's season opportunity last weekend. Just what does his role look like moving forward, I guess?
Yeah, I think Noah Cain has helped himself, right? I mean, he's not flashy. I don't think he's going to be a guy that makes a ton of people miss, but does he really have to, right? He plays with low pads. He's physical. He's smart. He catches the ball coming out of the backfield. He's reliable in pass protection, and he's tough to bring down. I mean, I mean, I just think I mentioned 4 or 5 things that are pretty good to have. He doesn't have, maybe some of those, wow factors, but steady and physical, and I think he leads our team in rushing touchdowns in terms of the running back position. So it's been extremely effective for us. Josh is making progress. As we mentioned, he had a knee sprain. We want to be very careful and take our time and bring him back accordingly. But each and every day, he's made the kind of progress necessary to hope that he could play this weekend.
You talked about Mekhi Wingo, but what points of growth have you seen him and Jaquelin Roy this season? Obviously, the defensive tackle position was not very deep after the loss of Mason Smith, and just how have they enabled others to succeed around them?
Well, Mekhi is the same guy every day. In terms of his work ethic, in terms of what he does in the classroom, he brings a great role model to that room on a day-to-day basis. I think J. Roy is really steadied himself in terms of what he's done on a day-to-day basis. On the practice field look, he was banged up a little bit earlier in the season, had some back issues, and I thought there was some inconsistency early on, but he's really steadied himself to give us really good play here down the stretch. And again, when you're better in November, especially at that position, which, as you know, is a high contact position, says a lot about how he's taking care of himself and doing the right things. And I think both of them are different players, but I think both of them have really, down the stretch here, have been really important for us.
Brian, you mentioned Noah's intelligence. We interviewed Greg Brooks after the game, Noah as well, and I was really struck by how well they carried themselves throughout the interview, answered the questions that were asked, those kinds of things. How underrated is intelligence in football, and how much has it been a key to this year's success?
Well, you bring up both those guys. They were guys that we brought in from the transfer portal as well, and I think many people have asked us many times about the transfer portal. I think it's one of the areas that can really get you in trouble or really can get you out of trouble. And I think it got us out of trouble because we took great character kids that could represent our program in a positive way, both on and off the field. And I think you bring up the point is that both of those guys immediately helped us build the right standards in the program and have obviously been real consistent performers for us, and in particular, Noah down the stretch here for us. So I think when you go into the transfer portal, you better know what you're getting. And if you don't, then shame on you. And I think we knew we were getting with those two kids.
Ryan, kind of, I guess in some ways building off this and looking ahead, the transfer portal windows are going to open up pretty soon after the SEC championship game, especially with y'all playing that game. How do you manage those kinds of conversations with players and just as a staff getting ready for that window to open up?
Yeah, so those are ongoing. You have to kind of balance them, accordingly through the season. We used a lot of the bye week to kind of get ahead of some of that stuff. Some of it is you have to react, but you're hoping to be less reactionary and much more proactive in that. But I think everybody knows what those dates are, and some of those conversations will have to take place, once the window does open up.
I think it's safe to say that you all have been a pretty healthy, relatively healthy team throughout the year.
Yeah.
To what do you attribute that? This is probably the fewest major injuries that I can remember in a season in a long time.
So putting together a team that represents that end goal, and that team is, our sports medicine team. It's our nutrition. It's our strength and conditioning. It's all of those. It's sports science. It's that whole team working together on a day-to-day basis. It's educating them and making sure that our players understand that if you want to be better in November, you better have a comprehensive plan that takes 365 days into account. So January and February and March, you're not out doing crazy things. And what I mean by crazy things, that you're overtraining, but you're training appropriately, your football team. So when you get to these days, that you don't have soft tissue injuries, that you don't have injuries that keep your kids out of practice. And I think it's how you practice, making sure that your players take care of themselves. I can tell you that in our spring, we didn't know how to practice, and we learned how to practice the right way. So we would be at this point and have the players available in the month of November and getting stronger as we went along.
There was intrigue when you took this job about you recruiting in the SEC, and a lot of your first 2 months on the job was recruiting Harold Perkins, I'm sure, from when he was committed to A&M. I guess, what do you remember about that stretch and kind of getting Harold Perkins to LSU?
Well, I remember everybody being up in arms when he committed to A&M, and I remember telling everybody to be patient, and that if we just be patient and we keep at it, we'll see what happens. And I think in recruiting, a lot of this is, early on here is just keep at it, be patient, keep doing it the right way, keep presenting who we are and what our plan is for your development. And you have a chance to get anybody to come here and pull our base. As I said before, make sure that we know who the great players are in this state. So I think we've done pretty good in making sure that those things are occurring.
Coach, I've had some people ask about Quincy Wiggins and how he's progressing and what is he learning and how's he coming along as a local talented kid.
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously we've made the decision to redshirt him. He got to his 4-game threshold, and we pulled him from, obviously dressing, and certainly that was the message I think that was sent to everybody. He has really flourished in the last month. The light's gone on. I think what we had early on was a young player that him as well as anybody from being here locally and following him in high school. He had not a lot of high school experience even, hadn't played a lot of football. I think coming down with us and me getting the chance to see him every day on scout team, he's learning how to play the game the right way, and pretty excited about him moving forward.
Coach, what do you see from Derek Davis? I know the running back position was banged up last week, and what do you see from him just to get some carries later on, just during the week, make that move from safety to running back?
Should have moved him there sooner. I think what we saw that was his last game. He's at the 4-game threshold, and we want to preserve his year because we saw some talent there. So for the Derek Davis fans out there, you won't see him again. He's done for the year. But yeah, pretty excited about his future, and we want to preserve the years that he has left, and it doesn't make sense now to put him in a game and have that be the 5th game. That's not fair to him. He made a decision to help us out, and we're going to make sure we help him on his end too.
Coach, given that you guys never really given that you didn't really need to have to be as aggressive in the portal when you were at Notre Dame, what sort of lessons did you take from this past season when you had to be more aggressive in the portal that you can take into this year?
Well, it's kind of what I've alluded to. I think any time that you go in and take transfers that have been in other programs, you got to make sure they're not carrying a lot of baggage, and you got to make sure that they understand the standards within your program, what your expectations are, clearly, that there's no promises other than the things that you want accomplished within your program. And it's just clearly communicated as to, what the things that you're looking for in making this transfer. As you know, a lot of them were from the state of Louisiana. And so, if we can continue down that road where there is a connection to LSU in the state, we want that as well.
Ryan, this just in, Matt House made the list of semifinalists for the Broyles Award. So.
Deservingly so. Yeah. Deservingly so. Thank you.
Yeah. And second, I'm still learning about you a little bit. The Texas A&M player Jalen Preston said something colorful about trying to ruin your team's season when you play a couple of weeks ago. Do you subscribe to bulletin board material? I kind of figured you're more of an inward-focused kind of.
Yeah, so if he was going to be playing for us and he was one of my players, I'd right now probably discipline him. But for us, it's really about our preparation and how we prepare is going to make a bigger difference than what anybody says about us. So, I kind of got through that a long time ago, that what people say really has little to do on how you play. Look, we know it's a rivalry game. We know it's A&M. Our guys know that. They don't need any more motivation to play this game. So that's a distraction. We'll focus on what will get us to play better, and that's our preparation, and we'll focus on that.
Coach, kind of piggybacking off what Scott said, usually around here when a defensive coordinator has a lot of success, people try to cherry pick him. Are you concerned about that at all?
No. If Matt House gets an opportunity where he thinks he's going to be better for it, I will help him in any way possible. I think that's part of this profession. He's done an outstanding job. I don't know that Matt House came here to be, the defensive coordinator for a year. He's going to have to run through his family and his wife. I think they like it here, but that's up to Matt. But I would never be in the way of any of our coaches if they have an opportunity to move on to be a head coach. I would fully support them.
You mentioned the great job Jaden did this past weekend. You played him a little bit longer than I was expecting. Just your thoughts on him trying to, keep up his, efficiency and production, and just where he is at this point in this season with 2 games remaining.
Yeah, so I think more than anything else, it's about him continuing to prepare the right way that allows him to play assertive and aggressively. And that, I think, is where we are with our quarterback. I felt really good. I know he felt good about his preparation. He'll need to do that again this week. I'm not going to give any excuses as to why he didn't prepare as well or couldn't prepare as well, but that Arkansas week he had the flu, he was sick, it wasn't the kind of preparation necessary. It was great this week, and we're going to have to stay on top of it again because we can clearly see when he prepares well, he plays well.
Hey, Coach, as best you can tell, why has A&M struggled so much this year?
It's a young football team. It's a very talented football team, but it's young. And so, you can see at times it is really scary. And then sometimes, there's a loss there of maybe some focus. But this is if they put it all together, it's not a team you want to be around when they put it all together. It's a very talented football team.
Hey, Coach, right up here to your left. So it seems like in the past couple of weeks, a good bit of your players have gotten sick with the flu. But Harold Perkins played his best game. You said Jaden could have prepared better. What's you think's how motivated they are to play, even though they have to sometimes play through illnesses?
Yeah, I think they all want to play, regardless. Damari Tolan had 102 temperature on Friday. So we pulled him out of the hotel, and his fever broke, and we were able to play him. Kayshawn was sick. He tried to play. We gave an IV. He couldn't answer the bell. Everybody's individually different, in terms of how they get through it. But they all want to play. They all want to fight through it. And generally, we've been very lucky that it's been a quick-moving flu in terms of 24 hours. And once they get through it, they've been able to bounce back and play for us. Great. Thank you.